It says going live. It says we're live. Hello. I see chat. Oh, it must be a stream. Devin's here. Hello, Devin. And so is the official Mr. P. Hello, everybody. And this is an amazing thing because I didn't know I was going to be doing this until I got worked up. Hello, my name's Charlie. I am a dark sci-fi fantasy writer who is currently writing some very witchy stuff, if you can't tell from the art on the screen. And I got worked up at the Evergreen Writers Retreat. And for good reasons, but I got worked up and I just can't stop talking. And these lovely ladies over here are going to try to keep me tapped down. So you see here we have Miss Abigail, who is writing a whole bunch of books that if I don't get to read them, I will have to just scream and yell and throw a temper tantrum like I'm 5 years old all over again. Because the more I hear about them, the more I want to read them. And we have over here the lovely, the wonderful Jules, the Dawdling Writer, who is not getting any work done, and I'm helping in her dawdling right now because she's here talking to us. Woo!
It's perfectly on brand.
So first of all, I just want to say nothing that was said at the retreat, at the Writing Oasis retreat this weekend, is what upset me. The panelists were great. The panelists were wonderful. But last night I sat down for the Burnout, Refilling Your Well. And for anybody who was in the chat, you saw that I got a little mouthy. I just could not stop talking because I have feelings about this. And so this morning I recorded an episode for the podcast, which will be out on Monday, thinking I will get it all out of my system. Nope. I still have more to say. So I just happened to mention on Instagram, maybe I should do a live. And these lovely people have decided to come along. So I am overly worked up. So I am ready to go. Oh, Sarah's here. Hello, Sarah. I'm glad to see you. I am so excited for your book too. Oh, I love me some historical mysteries. That's something that I just can't get enough of. So to get things started, to kick things off, the reason I got so worked up, I've never told the story on YouTube yet. The reason I got so worked up during that panel is I had a flashback because they're talking about being a real writer. They said that phrase, one day I'm feeling like you're going to be a real writer. And I had a flashback because my first book came out in the all of the channels just went blue. My first book came out in 2005, and I went to a convention where they were lovely people, and they put me on all kinds of writing panels. And I was so excited. And these Sci-Fi Writers of America threw a breakfast for all us new writers, and I was so excited because I was going to get to sit with all these writers that I've known for all these years. And AC Crispin was going to be there. And when I was 10 years old, I followed her around with a legal pad, asking her questions because I wanted to be a writer, writing down every little thing that she had to say so I could learn what it was. I'm so excited because I'm sitting there with Peter David and just all these authors that I loved my entire life. And Miss Crispin asked us how we did. And we're all talking about how many books we sold, and we're all happy, and we're all excited and telling our stories. And Miss Crispin decided to say to us, well, one day, children, you will be real writers. And when you are, you'll be able to sell 150 to 300 books at an event like this. Well, I have always been mouthy, and I could not keep my mouth shut. And I got bright red in the face, which people know is the sign to run because I am, my Hulk side is coming out. And I looked at her and I said, I'm sorry, no. I was a real writer the moment I put pen on paper. I was a successful writer when I finished my first book. I was a published writer when that book was published. I will be a best-selling author when that book hits a list, and I will be an award-winning author when a book gets an award. But I have always been a real writer. The table applauded. She got angry. Her agent paid for my breakfast and meals later that evening. But I don't like this idea of one day I will be a real writer. If you're putting words down, you are real now. now, not later, not someday your prince will come, now. And that gets me so fired up when I hear people talking themselves down. Like, you know,
Well, and to me, there's sort of two connotations with that, like real writer aspect, and it has to do with who's saying it and to whom it's being spoken. So there's the, like, as she was saying to you, you'll be a real writer when, like, that's condescending and it's gatekeeping. And then you have the other aspect of, I'm going to be a real writer eventually one day. And that's that self-doubt that is so crippling and plays into that imposter syndrome that a lot of us have. And that sort of perpetual wheel of people saying it and then you repeating it to yourself and it sinks in. And it's just this cycle of imaginary writerhood. I don't know.
That's why I wanted somebody on this stream with me, because I try not to get into this every time I do a video. But for all those of you who haven't realized the they, she here, I'm non-binary. I spent 40 years of my life feeling like an imposter in my own body. That's the other reason this is triggering to me. Because we need to just accept ourselves for who we are. And that, if I can do one thing with this channel on YouTube or with my podcast or with my books, it's to get people to realize you are you. You're always going to be you, some version of you. And there's no magical day when everything gets better. Everything's a gradient. Everything changes over time. And I understand that voice. When I first started going to therapy and first started figuring out that I was a little different, my first thought was, well, I'm not pretty enough to be a girl, so I know I'm not trans. That's some BS internalized misogyny right there that I didn't realize that I had. But that's the same kind of thoughts that anybody who's listening to me right now has that monologue in your head. You're doing the same thing to yourself. Well, when my writing's good enough, when a publisher says yes to me, when I finally get that agent, you're always going to have that. You know, I've had books do really well. I've had books that didn't. You know, I've had partnerships with companies. You're always going to have something reaching out in front of you. And if you let yourself have that gate, because we already talked about gatekeepers a little bit. If you put it in front of yourself, you're just going to keep moving it. You're never going to get through it. And that I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm really worked up about this because, like I said, I wasted 40 years of my life with this BS in my head. And I see, you know, all these people so much younger than me, you know, and I'm like, no, stop. Streaming or not, everything blipped again. I don't know if that's happening on
You literally said stop and then you froze like that.
Oh, I don't know what's going on with StreamYard today. I've watched a couple streams that it got weird. Maybe they're having storms today.
Well, and it also might be that they're overloaded with the amount of like evergreen writing oasis.
That's
plus
true.
whatever's going on in the world.
That's true.
Pandemic times. So who knows? It might be one of those special days.
Yeah, literally. No, I'm going to be careful when I say that because apparently the mojo is strong with me today. I wore my patron saint of Imposter Syndrome Ziggy Stardust shirt today so that I could do this justice and have the spirit of David Bowie with me as we went through this. And apparently, because those of you who don't know, David Bowie didn't die. He just went back to the galaxy that he originally came from because we weren't deserving of his greatness anymore. And apparently he is working wonders through me today. But yeah, I mean, what are you? Is there anything we need to talk about? How are you all doing with your own imposter syndrome?
I'll let you take it first, Abigail.
Okay. So it's kind of been a new wave since I started AuthorTube. I feel like it's been on like a next level because I always know that people, oh, she's an AuthorTuber, so she knows more about writing than I do, or she knows she's an expert, so to speak, and then is going to look at and read my books with that lens. And if they find anything wrong with it, they're going to point that out. And so I'm sitting there like, am I deserving of like, you know, being an AuthorTuber? And then there's always just the plain, am I any good at this? I feel like this is crap.
Now, I sorry, like I said, I'm opinionated. I warned you all before we got started. I have feels and things to say about this. On that, to me, the great thing about AuthorTube is that we're all trying to figure this out. Like I said, I started my publishing career in 2005, and I have done everything that you can imagine. I was publishing on Amazon, digitally on Amazon, in the program before Kindles were a thing. Before KDP was a thing, they reached out to me, and I had stuff for the digital locker and stuff that they were doing. They were selling PDFs on the site. Like, I'm an old hat at this stuff. I'm still figuring it out. After my unscheduled mental health vacation a couple years ago, when I came back and started doing work again, the industry changed, you know, and everything that I did previously, it just doesn't work anymore. And so the one thing that I could say personally for me to you on that, just that's like that's writer's life, because you're going to figure it out, and then Amazon's going to figure out that you figured it out, and they're going to change the algorithm just to keep you from knowing what you were doing and have to figure it all out again, you know. But that's, to me, the glory of what we're doing here on AuthorTube is we're sharing our stories, our lives, our experiences, so we can learn from each other, because, you know, I don't think anybody here is an expert. You know, just watching the retreat this weekend, everybody started their video with, I don't know why I was asked to do this panel because I'm not really qualified. And, oh, I just started screaming in the chat room every time they did that, you know, because we are always qualified to speak from our experience, because nobody knows our experience better than we do. And that's why I like watching y'all's videos and being in your streams and such.
Well, and it's weird because I'm having to analyze sort of what is my imposter syndrome and what is my fear of missing out. Because there's a whole lot of that, especially like coming on to YouTube and learning how to make videos, how to edit. Like, do I have a proper camera? Do I have proper lighting? Like, do I have the funky fairy lights in the background, which now I do. And it's kind of like, so the fear of missing out, like I kept seeing Tamara's fans. And so I was like, where's my fan? I've got it, you know? And so there's that aspect of like fear of missing out. Plus you see other AuthorTubers and other authors who are having success, and you're trying to pick apart their algorithm, their tags, and all these things. Is like, you know, what am I doing wrong? Like, why aren't I getting X amount of views? Why don't I have X amount of subscribers? Why don't I have X amount of books being sold? And so there's that. And so whenever you start to really, I think, crunch numbers in that aspect, you have both like the fear of missing out, and you have the imposter syndrome sort of deepens because your like numbers don't match.
Comparison.
Yeah.
Comparison. And it's just that there's like that whole aspect of stuff. And then there's the aspect of I've not published a book. And so there's that aspect of gatekeeping that I keep running into, where like people don't necessarily consider me a real author because I haven't published a book. Like either self-publishing or
I thought you used to do, maybe I've got you confused with somebody else. I thought you used to do fanfic.
I did not.
You didn't? I thought I remembered hearing you say
Yes,
that.
I did. I did.
So,
Okay. A lot of us did, so I think I'm just tagging everybody with used to do fanfic.
Yeah. So,
Which, by the way, is real writing.
Yes, it is.
it is. And, you know, and so I started thinking, I was like, well, maybe I need to like, you know, pad my resume a little bit and make it sound better. Like I'm not padding it, but so like the things that I have had published, poems and a short story and one nonfiction article, are all in like very small, minuscule publications that weren't sold for any money. It was just like they were published through my grad school and through one of the educators. Yeah, and so, but it's like there's a whole lot of people who
I know
see it that way, and so that self-doubt and the sort of like gatekeeping work hand in hand to sort of keep me from like, yeah, I'm an author, yeah, I'm a writer, deal with it. And so in the back of my head, I'm always like, yeah, but I haven't published a book.
Does that mean that everybody else?
So yeah, so I think the imposter syndrome and the fear of missing out sort of give you a double whammy when we're on a social platform like YouTube and Instagram, because you not only have to combat your internal demons, but you're also having to combat the external influences that are coming at you from people seeing you putting yourself out there and then being the trolls that they are. Mm-hmm. So
I quote this book all the time when I'm talking to other writers. This is Sol Stein's Stein on Writing. And I'm not saying that this is the best book on writing out there, but I have learned two of, I think, the most amazing lessons about being a writer from this book. One, he was Ilya Kazan's agent. And if you don't know, Kazan was blacklisted as a communist during that whole time. And he's got some very interesting stories in here about dealing with being made a social outcast because of who you know. But he also tells this wonderful story in here because, as he says, he worked with people that wrote brilliant books, and some of them sold hundreds of thousands of copies. Others didn't sell at all. And he said, what I realized is that my grandmother was right. In the middle of the night, little elves sometimes sneak into our rooms and spread ruby dust all over us. And we have this special magic that gets us to where we want to go. We never know when those elves are coming, so we have to be ready at all times. And I love that because that's what it feels like. You know? Because I think we put way too much on ourselves for our own success. Like we truly have a say over it. And yes, writing clean stories, that helps, with good grammar and all that. And that's great. And writing stories that connect with people, that's great. But 50 Shades of Grey blew up, and we can debate its literary qualities if you want to, but it connected with people. So good writing doesn't necessarily have to be the only thing there. It's fairy dust. We could write the greatest things ever and it blow up, or we could write, sorry for the offending people, but Twilight, and it blow up, because I think her writing did get better over the books. That first book reminds me of a lot of my high school fan fiction, and yet it still got published and got a huge audience. You never know. And I really want people to start embracing that mentality. Like, yes, I can make sure I'm scheduling stuff to come out when it should come out, and I'm doing my this and I'm doing my that. But then you just have to, and this is hard. I'm not saying this is easy, but let it go. Let it go out into the world and let it be. For me, I'm doing both Camp NaNoWriMo this month, and I'm doing World Building Summer Camp. And to participate in World Building Summer Camp, you have to make every article you post public. Well, I have to write 33 articles in 30 days. I don't have time to edit. So I have to put those out, warts and all. That's helping me get over my fear of whether or not people are going to care about my mistakes or whatnot, because I know these things are filled with them. But I'm putting them out there in the public because that's part of the challenge. And it's on the platform that I'm building my business on. They're all marked work in progress, whether or not anybody looks at them or not. But what's amazing is getting people hitting the favorites on there, people commenting on them, getting excited about this, that, and the other. We have Miss Abigail Ford giving me beautiful ideas like the brownie bus of brownies that is just astounding and becoming such a thing that is just like taking over my writing right now.
It's and we're so happy.
But that's what I'm saying. This is a first draft picture. You know, I sat down and I wanted it to look like something from the 60s because that's a big thing in my head right now is this thing started in the 60s. So I don't know if this is what the final picture is going to look like. I don't know if this is what the final logo is going to look like, but it's good enough. It's good enough. Everything in my life right now is about being good enough. And I don't mean that like to somebody else's standard, but like just good enough to put out there. Do I look presentable enough to be on a stream? I don't know. And I don't care anymore.
Me.
You know? Do I care if anybody's going to like the crazy ideas that I'm writing about right now? No. I don't give a... I almost said a series of bad words right there. I don't care. Because that to me is what creativity is. We need all of the crazy ideas. We need all of those little mistakes because you never know what's going to work. Did Emily Dickinson, did she write her poems without punctuation because she was a genius or because she didn't understand how to punctuate her own poetry?
Or she didn't care.
Or she didn't care. Which is it? I read it and I think it's brilliant, especially if you get not the stuff that they corrected and added commas and stuff too, but her original poems that are just a couple dashes and maybe a period every now and then if she felt like it. It changes the way that you read it. Well, most of those went unpublished. They were unedited. Who knows if she intended them to look like that or if that's just the way they look. But they're brilliant. And having that courage, and she's one of my favorite poets, but having that courage to just put ourselves out there. That's what this is. Because as much as this is a business, and I don't fault like Caro and some of the others that are really big on the business side of things, because you can tell I am too. My branding is all over this. You can see over there by Abigail's head, you can see the logo for my podcast that I've been using for a long time. In the background, you see the artwork test pattern for my stuff. Branding is important. Marketing is important. That's not what makes you successful. You know, I know I can't put that thought in other people's heads, but...
Well, and sometimes I wonder if the authors who are so big on doing that kind of like marketing, efficiency, productivity, branding, are they intending to put out books that are sort of like self-help for writers eventually, as well as their fiction? And so that becomes a part of their brand by default because of what they want to write eventually. And so if so, that's fine. That's perfect. And in some ways, I think that is sort of coming across in a couple of their videos in the way that they analyze things and whatnot. But yeah, but it is, writing at heart is both a lot of work, but it's also a lot of just like heart and soul and creativity. So, yeah.
And today is amazing. Like, you know, this if I can be the old person in the room for a minute, today is just so amazing because when I got started, you put out one of these and it got into a store or nobody knew about you, you know? And then Amazon happened and you could get on this digital store online and people might be able to order you. And in a week or two, you might show up at their house. And now, like I said, I'm sitting here doing Jules's live streams and Abigail's live streams. And I'm just like, I posted another article. I'm on to the next one, you know?
Yeah, it is much easier to network and to share. But because of that, it also sort of comes down to that, like, well, how do you make yourself visible in the noise? And so that's when you also get that other level of the that imposter syndrome, because you're like, well, but my ideas aren't good enough to get to the top. And then you start competing and doing the numbers game and like figuring out the algorithm and the tags and whatnot. And so your brain starts to sort of either split or lean more towards the analysis rather than towards your creativity.
Numbers are good. And thank you, Megan. That's all Miss Abigail there. She inspired the whole thing. But yeah, I don't want to come off like I am the contrarian on AuthorTube saying that it doesn't matter if you ever make money off of any of the work that you do. No, look, I am so thankful. I had to repurchase my audio software for the podcast today, and thanks to my audience, I just did it. I didn't have to like go, where's this money going to come from? Because I opened it up and it's just like, you owe us money. You know, I want to make money, just like I think all of us do. But the one thing that I've learned over the years that is still true is there's enough same carbon copy people out there. It's the things that make you weird. It's the things that make you unique. It's the strangeness of us that gets people interested, and it attracts people to our work. You know, I know she's kind of on the outs right now, and I understand why, but she bounces back and forth between the ins and the outses. But the thing that made Anne Rice amazing when I met her was that she knew that she was that crazy old cat lady when she was in her 20s. And she just embraced it. And she just sat there in all of her gothy craziness at the table and just, hello, my dears, you know, inside our books. And that's part of what added to the mystique. That's who she is. She's that crazy cat lady that tells stories about vampires and werewolves and all kinds of crazy, naughty stuff, you know? That's what makes us special. That's why I gravitated to y'all. You know, I say this all the time. Brooke Passmore saved my life because I was debating whether I was going to keep writing. And she just is herself. Like her streams, like I remember when I started watching her, I just went, I want to be that fearless. That's what I want to be. And if she heard me saying this, she'd probably be like, no, you know, but that's it. You know, I don't want to be like her. I don't want to copy her because I'm not her. But that fearlessness that she at least exudes, whether she has it in real life or not, that she exudes on her streams, that's who I want to be. Because that's what attracts people. That's why, you know, I do my weird pop-up posts on my social media, and I keep my stuffed animals all around me because that's who I am. And if you get freaked out because I've got stuffed animals all around me, or, you know, Papa Nihil or Papa Emeritus shows up from time to time, you're not in my target audience.
Should I just put my slot?
Yeah. Be yourself. Find the things that make you you.
He just stays on my lamp, so.
You know, because the one thing that I've learned about marketing most in this social media thing, like, I used to be that quiet person who did all the analytics and the metrics and stuff on Twitter. And then I just had a F it week. I'm just going to do whatever. And I went from 250 to 4,000 followers over there. Because people were sharing stuff. Because I wasn't, I wasn't thinking anymore like, is this the thing? Is this the one thing that's going to get me followers this week? Is this the one thing that's going to be good for my brand or my market? You know, I was just having a bad week, and I was mouthy about everything. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to be mouthy about everything, but that's kind of my brand now. You know, I don't know. I feel like I'm the evangelist for be yourself. Because too many of us aren't. Yeah. Being analytical is a good thing. Being analytical, like I look at all my statistics. Like I analyze my YouTube things, which are going to be really bad next month because I had one video go like accidentally viral on me. Like I was one of like the second or third videos who did that My Wildest Publishing Dreams videos. And so that video got like 4,000 views and like everything else is like, down in the 10s and 20s. Because, I saw Kevin's video and was like, that looks like fun. And just did it, but that's the thing. I'm an extremely analytical person. Don't let my outward appearance, like I have spreadsheets for everything, but you have to have fun at the same time. Don't get lost in the numbers. The numbers will not set you free. Oh, honey, if you understood how much structure I need, if you don't know, I hate to promote my own video, even though this is my channel, but the video I just did on how to be a gamer writer, I show you my Scrivener file. That's control. Like I have each scene blocked out by word count by beat in there. So that I hit all my beats in my zero draft and don't miss anything. So have control, but have fun.
Yeah, I responded to Sarah in the chat that like I don't mind being analytical at points, and I understand that a lot of people are more analytical than they are creative. But due to like on AuthorTube specifically, hello.
Ooh, I love that profile picture.
Raven.
I do too.
But when like the top channels and when the algorithm specifically continually picks up the channels that analyze and talk about numbers and then like the YouTube how-to stuff, and people go watch those because they want to know how to YouTube. And so the algorithm continually rewards that kind of video. And so the smaller channels and the people who aren't necessarily as analytical sort of feel that fear of missing out or feel the pressure that they need to do similarly. That's what I don't care about, the sort of like the super big focus on analysis and numbers and things like that. Because yeah.
I'm about to put you two on the spot, so start thinking here. But Mr. P, who, by the way, if you've not watched his video on bullying, everybody needs to go watch that. That is yes. that is truth, and it needs to get out there. Everybody has a different definition of success. Set your goals and work to them. Comparing ourselves to others is hard not to do. I do it all the time. I do too. But it is important to remember their success does not define our success.
Yes.
No, it does not. So I'm going to start with Jules because she brought it up. What would be success for you on YouTube or with your books? I mean, what are you really looking for?
I think, like a lot of authors, my goal is to make a living writing, like solely writing, and specifically writing books, not necessarily like freelance blog posts and whatnot. So there's that. So if I could safely make a living with being able to put some amount of money away in savings, being able to pay for health insurance, all that kind of stuff. That's the monetary goal. For creativity wise, I would like to be able to explore probably about 4 or 5 different genres of writing. And just
are you planning on doing pen names or having them all be you?
I'm planning on pen names. So I think pen names for specific genres is kind of like what I have in my head. Anyway.
That's a whole topic that we could spend like 3 hours on right there.
Right. Like, how do you pick the right name? Why is it the right name? Which ones, and so like I already have like 3 pen names picked out. I'm like, and then I'm like, but do I really need 3? Do I really need, and so for me, like my sort of go-to for pen names, one of the things that I think is the coolest is Ann Krantz. So she's a romance author. And so she started with Ann Krantz, I believe. And then, so that is her contemporary pen name. And she started writing Jane Castle, which is futuristic. And then she started writing Amanda Quick, which is her like Victorian Regency era. And now she has one book in each, and it forms the trilogy.
Nice.
And I'm
that
just
is an interesting idea.
I get so fangirly over like the weirdest things like that.
That's amazing.
And so, like, it would be kind of fun to do that, but on the other hand, like, because hers are specifically romance across the board and they're just like time periods, it works very well. Whereas if I have like a fantasy novel and then like there's a mystery novel, like do those, it seems like that's a little bit of a weird cross there. But so I don't know that I could do necessarily that same thing. And I just think it's kind of a fun little weird fact.
That's amazing.
And I found all three separately. And then I started reading them like religiously. I'm like, oh, I'm going to read everything I can from this person. And then they came out with the like newest book, and it was like Ann Krantz writing it, Amanda Quick. And I'm like, wait, what? These are the same people, huh? And then I found the Jane Castle, and I was like, wait, what, huh? So, but I remember specifically picking up the Jane Castle one because it was spelled, the Jane was spelled the same way the Ann Krantz was. And so like, there was a sly connection there. So cool. There's that kind of thing. I think I got.
Did I freeze? Did everybody freeze? Hello. So.
But I think I like dived off the topic.
No, that's good. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because I'm thinking, if I scream in a minute, I have a cat who's been very insistent on time today, and she is giving me a look right now. So if I scream, I'm sorry. You stay down there. Or come up on the arm, not on me. Yeah, I've been contemplating for my romance fiction that I'm doing being Charlie Dorset, because I'm C.E. Dorset on all my sci-fi fantasy stuff. But I'm thinking about doing that. And I think those are rational, achievable goals. And that's the important thing there. Like having something to reach for that is not like, it's good to have insane goals, because I said this in the chat the other day. I was just chanting this because I was upset that people were using the word goal wrong, at least the way I think of it. A to-do list is something you check off every day. A goal is something you have to reach for. If you're not stretching yourself, it's not a goal. It's just something that you do. And they were using those words interchangeably. And I have a thing about that. But there's nothing wrong with goals. I have crazy goals. I want a Netflix series. I look at the new shows that are coming out on Netflix and I go, whew, I got a book series that is perfect for you. You should definitely, hopefully find me. I'll see what I can do. I've got some friends. See what I can do about that. And I have to, wow. Hi. Hello, everyone. This is Minerva. So while I'm dealing with her, Abigail, what are you wanting?
I mean, yeah, a career. I definitely want a writing career, and I don't necessarily feel like I need to chart any lists or win any awards or anything. For me, just being able to say, yeah, I do this full time, and yes, I actually make money, because that's the number one question I get all the time when I tell people that I'm a full-time writer. It's like, oh, do you actually like survive? Like, anyways, that's a pet peeve of mine. Like, oh, so it's okay to ask a writer what kind of money they make, but it's rude for everybody else. We need to
do a tag or something. Just things to stop asking writers. Like, are you okay? Are you an alcoholic? How do you get by? Like, people have no qualms just saying that right out off the bat. It's insane. Yeah.
Oh, so as a female author, it's like, oh, so your books are romance? Instantly.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
I actually had a guy tell me, before I had ever like told him what my books were about, he was like, well, I guess I won't be reading them since they're romance. I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, that is.
Anyways, so
Feel
my
that.
goal,
I feel it.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So career, I want to basically be debt free my whole life. That's kind of a life goal of mine. So
I'm sorry, I laughed, not because that's unrealistic, but my dream is to be a writer. My husband's dream is to be a restaurateur. So we did that wonderful thing of getting in an insane amount of debt so that he could have a restaurant. And I'm just like, debt free. Oh, that is such a beautiful dream. I didn't want you to think I was laughing at you. I just had a moment of, oh, one day I won't have hundreds of thousands of dollars alone debt of.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I get you. I totally get you. But as an artist, that's like, but it is a goal of mine. And I mean, just I want to take care of my parents, I would say, with my writing. And I mean, right now, they are so behind me with writing that they are giving me the opportunity to chase it full time. And that's what's so frustrating. People ask me that. It's like, well, I live with my parents, so I'm not technically making much money, but that's none of your business. So I try to answer a different question, not the question they asked, but it sounds like I'm answering their question. So I want to take care of them and just be able to support them and my whole family with my writing. And I mean, like I said,
think that's more possible today than ever. And not just because there are more readers or the technology or anything. I think I look at things like Patreon, because I'm completely shifting my business model lately, because I have weird dreams for my fiction. Like I want a tabletop role-playing game set in my fantasy world. And I'm going to make it. It's going to happen. And that's part of what all of these articles are that I'm putting out. So I'm looking, when I'm thinking about my business now, that's the podcast and the ad revenues I get from there. That's the Patreon. And thank you to everyone who does that. I don't understand why you give me money, but thank you.
See, that's that imposter syndrome coming through again. Is
oh
that,
no,
like,
I just can't understand people giving me money.
Whatever.
Oh, no, I'm so bad at that. There's a woman at a convention I go to that every time I see her, she would ask me, do you have a new book out? And if I said no, she would just hand me a 20 and say, well, that's for the one that I'm going to pretend you gave me, and walk off. And I just, why did you thank you? Like, because it's amazing how good people can be to us if we give them the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And it astounds me because,
yeah, like my parents, I mean, I still like am shocked because they are like, your writing is good. You need to pursue this. We will take care of you. You need to chase this. And like, I just think how many people would do that, and how many people have been patient and like just, they tell all their friends and post about it on social media. And it's just, to me, it's like, I can't believe they're willing to put this much behind me. I'm like, am I that good that you're willing to like risk?
See, for me, on that imposter syndrome comment, for me, I grew up in the 1700s. Like I learned how to cook on a Franklin wood burning potbelly stove. Like I grew up in a completely different era and a different time. And I grew up poor, and money is such a sacred thing because it's so hard to come by. Like that's the mindset that I grew up with. And so when I say I can't believe people give me money, yeah, there is a part of me that's like, me? How about Nora? I mean, N.K. Jemisin's so much a better writer than me. You're giving to her, right? Not that I don't know that if she needs it or not, but she deserves it more. But there's also just that, wow, like you worked for that money, and me? That it's that weird thing that I grew up with. But yeah, I'm so grateful for my family, for everything that we have fought over the years, and for the good things that they've brought. Like I'm amazed at the support that I see people getting nowadays. Like when I first, how can I say this without being impolite? To this day, my mother's first words out of her mouth every time I tell her I've got a book coming out is, I hope someone doesn't steal it and that you might actually make something off of this one. And I'm so glad that people are getting support, because I have this dream of starting a publishing company someday. Like, this is one of my weird dreams, where we just pull all the money together. It's like a writing co-op, and then pull it back out to everybody so we can support all the up and comers, all the all the people coming up, because there are so many voices out there that I wonder what it's going to be like to never hear them because they weren't lucky enough, or I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty or anything, because I know my own privilege is being able to work full time as a writer. But I worry about the voices I'm not getting to hear. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to hit some of these comments real quick because I made it too serious. Yes, imposter syndrome and fear of missing out. Yes, yes. See, FOMO is the FOMO. I wanted to go back to that because FOMO is everything for a writer. I think that is how I'm going to, that's how I'm going to say this. That's why we get writer's block. We're afraid, but what if I work on this other story? What if I'm not, what if that one's better? Or what if it would be better if I read this book for research for this other thing that I'm doing? That FOMO just destroys us.
It stalls us because of indecision.
Yeah.
A lot of times. For me.
Second guessing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
My dad gets absolutely horrendously mad at me whenever we play games together, especially with something like an open concept world, because I can enter a cave or a dungeon and I will be like 3/4 of the way to the end of a branch of a cave and I'll be like, I should have gone the other way. I really should have gone the other way. And so I'll turn around and I'll go the other branch and it'll just be like this little nubbin of a corner. And so then I'll have to backtrack and go the rest of the way back to where the direction I was already headed. And he gets absolutely insane mad at me because I continually I do that every single cave or map that I go into. And so my writing is often a lot like that. And I'm like, should I go this way with the plot? Should I do this? No, wait. I should really have gone this way. And no, this doesn't work. Let me go back. And so like, I do that all the time.
I hope that they will sponsor me at some point in the future, but this is why I'm moving my entire business over to World Anvil. No, they're not sponsoring me, but Janet, I love you. They just recently put up a tool for manuscripts for putting your books and stuff up there. And one of the things that I'm having so much fun with, because all of my work is going to be available to read for free next month on World Anvil, including for my patrons, and not to be like that dirty shill again, but all of my deleted scenes. Because I do that too, where the stories go off into weird places, and I'm just like, no, that's not going to fit. That's not going to work into the book. That's not going to make it. Thor may have shown up. And the musical chairs.
I have the top corner now.
Did Thor show up?
No, I accidentally clicked off.
But
Thor would have been better.
I'm just so excited about that because it's like secret choose your own adventure stuff. Like, I don't even care in my new book that I'm working on how many of these chapters make it into the final book that will show up as an actual book for people to buy, because I know I'm having a blast writing them, and they'll be there for people to read if they want to see the alternate scenes. My entire current whip is based off of a zero draft short story that I wrote that I was like, that's a novel. And so that's going to be there with all of it. And that new world of being able to explore different ways of putting our work out there, that's what's so exciting to me about this time. Because I used to be exactly where that. Like, I'm going the wrong way. No, stop over here. And like, this may be the worst like idea in the history of writing ideas, but I am having so much fun just telling the story however it wants to get told. Like, oh, Mariah wants a POV scene now? Okay, let's give her a POV chapter. Let's see what happens. Oh, so she's hanging out with those people doing these things. I don't know if this belongs in the book, but this is fun. Okay, and it's helpful because it informs later scenes in the book because I know what she was up to while she was off camera. So whether or not it appears in the book or not, it's not wasted time because now I know so much more of what's going on in the headspace she's in when we meet back up with her. So I'm excited about that. Oh, the chat just exploded. What happened? What did I do? Ooh, dinner. Yeah. Pen names. See, I was originally going to use a pen name, and I just want to put this out there because it does not matter unless you're a crazy person like me. But in U.S. copyright, under U.S. copyright laws, it's currently constructed, if you use a pen name, technically, copyright only lasts for 75 years, which for most of us, that's fine. If you use your own name, it's lifetime plus 75 years. I am not a lawyer. Do your due diligence on that, but that's what changed my mind about using a pen name, because I actually had one picked out. I'm very glad I didn't use it because it was extremely gendered, and that would have been a problem now. But and luckily I used my initials, so I can just change what the C and the E stand for. But yeah, I don't know if that matters to anybody, but legacy is such a big thing in my family that I was just thinking, what if I'm one of those authors that only gets famous after I'm dead? Because I think like this, and that got stuck in my head, and I was like, I have to use my own name just in case. But that's just because I have issues.
No, I'm with you. I was actually just researching copyright too, so I think it is that. Yeah, I think you're correct. But I was when I switched. So a little bit on the imposter syndrome too is I did my first self-published book when I was 15, and I still have it up there, even though there's not a day that goes by that I don't want to rip it off. Okay. It annoys me. But anyways, it's a romance. I'm not planning on writing contemporary romance anymore, ever. I have no interest. I outgrew it. When I was 17, I wrote suspense thriller. Totally different genre. And I was like, pen name, no pen name. And I was like, you know what? I just want to be me. And that doesn't work for everybody. I know, and it's no judgment for you.
There are some people that need pen names for their own safety, and I understand that.
Yeah.
And no judgment.
Yeah. Same here. But for me, there's several writers I love that write in different genres, and I want to read and support them no matter what they write. And that doesn't bother me that they do multiple genres. If they do a genre I don't like, which is difficult to do, then I just don't read it.
That's what, I find that too with a lot of the writers that I like. That's why when I picked my name, it was C.E. Dorset, because I love a lot of classic, fiction, and they wrote everything, and they were always initial name. And that's why I picked the name that I did to publish under. And it's been interesting how many people have followed from work to work over the years, because my first 4 books were space opera, a weird Japanese space opera-y thing that takes place on a desolate planet thingy, and then an urban fantasy that takes place at a drag bar. And there was carryover through all of that. And I just figured, I'm me. And if you want to read my stuff, here it is. I don't like it when I'm personally one of those people. I don't like it when I find out that there's a secret pen name. I mean, I could have read more of your work and I didn't know. Like, that's not such a big deal today with websites and stuff where you can be like, like the Courtney Project does. I write under this pen name and this pen name. And so, okay, so Courtney's these two pen names, It's not much a big deal nowadays, but that worried me. I just...
Well, it's for me when I was considering, because I mentioned that I want to write in at least 5 genres, and a couple of those are children's books. So I have a couple of like kids' picture books that I want to illustrate. And so like for me, that is like a totally different ballgame than like my YA dark fantasy, which is taking on like the corruption of a giant religion and the humanity that runs the temples. So like that is very, very different. And so if I'm like have a little fable for kids and this parent then goes, oh, you remember that book that you loved as a kid? Yeah, sure. Here, and hand them the YA book and then like tries to sue me for corrupting their child. And, like that's, my brain is going, you need to be separated by something.
Yeah, I had to contact Amazon because I don't write like dirty stuff, though.
Why not?
It's resetting. Gotta watch this. So, I don't write dirty stuff, but, Amazon's for sometimes, things I do. And one of my most recent books, they put into YA. And I write I have a tendency to write some gory, horror-esque scenes in my stuff. And I'm just like, please take this category off. I did not choose this category. Apparently, I used one of the keywords I used got me dumped into a YA category. And I'm just like, I have nothing against kids reading this book, younger audience. This book's fine for that. But a lot of my other stuff deals with, issues that I know, some of it when I was a kid I would have been fine with, but some of it, I don't. That's inappropriate.
Well, and then you have kids like me, and I asked my mother, I think in like 4th grade, what she was always reading, and she was reading romance novels, and she told me I couldn't read them until I was in high school. That did not work for me.
Oh.
That did not work because I was told I was not allowed to read them. What did I do? I set my alarm for like an hour early every day. I would sneak in and grab her secret reading book, read it, and then go put it back before she got up for the morning.
I'm not saying I ever did that.
I started reading romance novels because I was told that I could not. So like, I'm a special little snowflake child.
I'm not saying I've done that, but I'm not saying I didn't.
Yeah, so, like, I just started checking them out, like probably like my last couple of years of like the last year of middle school or something. I started checking them out from the library instead of like stealing hers. And so and it just became the norm, and I just no longer hid it from her. So like in 9th grade, I was like blatantly checking out a stack of like 8 romance novels at a time. And Mom was like, what are you doing? You can't read those. I'm like, you said high school. I'm now in high school. And this was like the summer before 9th grade, I think. Like 9th grade. She's like, oh, I guess you're right. So here's to the weird ones, I guess.
Oh, tell me about it. My sister, God love her. She corrupted me early and often. She used to, when I was like 9, when let's see, how old are you when you're in like 1st, 2nd grade? So that's like 6, 7, 8 years old. Yeah. She was buying me like Edgar Allan Poe and stuff like that. And that was like, I hated it when anybody gave me a book that didn't have like weird morbid death and nightmares in it, because that made me so happy. But that's how I became the person I am today, kids.
That's how I got into video games and why I'm only pretty much into gory video games, because of my older brother. So
if I wasn't such a I feel like I would be the most boring person in the world to watch because I get so into doing, like playing a video game. I have thought about streaming video games so many times. And I know it would be the most boring stream ever because I'm not one of those people that can talk while I'm playing a game. Like when my husband and I play games, we put on an audio book in the background or something because we know we're not going to be talking to each other because we're just going to be doing the game. The game is all. The game is life.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at like game commentary either. So
yeah, me neither.
Although I tried to set up Twitch so I could like stream Slime Rancher. Speaking of little honey slimes and whatnot, but I couldn't get the settings right, so I like felt like a technology dunce and like gave it up. So yeah,
Slime Rancher is too addictive of a game.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
It is so cute. It is so addictive. I have slimes. I love it so much. I buy the plushy slimes. I have them scattered all around my house, and I move them around every day. Like in the morning when I'm half asleep and I don't remember anything that I did, so that when I wake up, I'm like, oh, you're over there today. And it's like magic. They moved because I know I'm not going to remember anything until I finish my first cup of coffee. And
and they're much cuter than like the Elf on the Shelf, which if you ask me, looks creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Creepy AF.
Mm-hmm. Found a funny prompt that you wanted to share. Well, it started with a I'm not saying that one of my writing groups once did a prompt like that, but let's just say none of the stuff that ended up getting written that day was safe for children.
So many.
See, I don't even know what's appropriate for kids anymore because no, I really mean this because when we got Disney Plus, my husband and I started watching like all these movies we loved when we were kids that we haven't seen since we were kids. And we were watching Flight of the Navigator, which when I was a little kid, I loved that movie so much. And the amount of blue language that is in that movie shocked me because my mother is a prude now. And I'm just like, my mom let me watch this movie. How did my mom? I watched this all. Like, I used to always have this movie rented. And every time it was on TV, I watched it. And she never said boo. But today, like, you couldn't get away with using the S word and stuff like that in a Disney children's movie like that. Like, I don't even know what's kid friendly anymore. Which is why when I thought about writing a YA, because the book I'm doing right now, I started back in initially started the idea for it back in December when She Who Shall Not Be Named made me angry, and I decided to write my own trans version of Harry Potter. And then I realized I am not going to make this a YA book because it will be too, like, it'll be safe for kids if kids want to read it, but I'm not going to market it that way because I know some of the stuff that'll probably come up in this book. But yeah, that's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
My copy of the Silmarillion is always within arm's reach because I can't live without it. J.R.R. Tolkien is literally why I'm a writer. And that's not an exaggeration. Because I want to get into where our ideas come from in a minute, so you two can be thinking about how you want to answer that. But I vividly remember being in 5th grade, we read The Hobbit. And our teacher told us the story about how that book got started, that he was grading papers one day and he wrote on the corner of one of them, "In a hole there lived a hobbit." And that spawned this idea that became this book. And it was like the world opened and I realized humans write books. Mm. Like, for some reason, up until that point, like, books just appeared into the universe. You know, they were just handed to us from on high. And I was just like, humans write books. We write books. I can write books. And the world has suffered every day since because I learned I could write my own stories.
Oh, wait, suffer?
Oh, no, suffered. You haven't read my stuff yet, have you? I am.
I'm still going to fight you on it.
I am a goth at heart, honey. So like I write all the purple prose and all of the melancholy and all of the like everybody's got that woes in my fiction, and then they go fight a dragon.
But it's like you with Poe, the woes made you happy.
Oh, they make me so happy, but I get letters from people sometimes going, could you just write one happy scene? I'm like, I did, and I pointed out, and they're like, that wasn't happy. What do you mean? They killed the bad guy. There was so much blood.
It's kind of like Adele, though. She writes all the songs about heartbreak, and everybody loves it and eats it up. But then there's always like some people, are you going to be happy? Like, I mean, she makes enough money off of heartbreak that, like, why would she change it?
The reason I started saying suffer through my work is there is one woman who buys every book that I've ever put out, and I love her. And she always contacts me personally to tell me what her reviews are going to be before she tells anybody else, because she wants to make sure it's okay. And she's so sweet. And she contacted me a while back and said, you haven't put out a book in a while, and I just haven't had any of that sweet suffering for a long time. And I'm just like, that's my brand. Hello, my name is Charlie, and I make my readers suffer. I love her so much. But yeah. Yeah, I read Anne McCaffrey is the other person to blame for who I am.
Yes.
First book I ever picked out for myself to read was Dragon Song, because I saw it on the shelf and went, I'm going to read that. And I don't know that should have been in my middle school. Not 100% sure that should have been in a middle school library, because it gets a little steamy. The later books in that world get a lot steamy.
I think that sums you up too. The sweet suffering and the wholesomeness. That's your brand, Charlie.
It is, because
Sweet, wholesome suffering.
I've thought for a while, because I'm planning for Halloween this year to actually do all of my streams in like full goth regalia and makeup and whatnot. And I'm actually planning to have Papa Emeritus makeup on several of them for anybody who listens to Ghost. And I've been thinking of actually starting a goth channel called like something like The Wholesome Goth or something like that, because I think it would be so funny, and it's totally my brand. Like it's who I am. I can't imagine anything that you would do is bad, but I love your videos. So, well, I am currently writing a version of it, and it is so much fun. And yeah. It Oh, Flight of the Navigator. That movie still surprisingly holds up, and I didn't realize Sarah Jessica Parker is in it. I had no idea. She's really young, from Sex and the City.
Oh yeah.
She's
I was
really
trying to
young.
remember Flight of the Navigator. So
Yeah, she's really young, and I saw her name in the credits, and I was like, "There's no way." And then she shows up, and I'm just like, she plays a lab tech in there, and I'm just like, oh, this movie so goes against the brand of the rest of your career.
Well, it's funny, like the whole thing about censoring is interesting, because like Disney censors so much of the original fairy tales, so much. Like, so if you ever ask somebody about the original Cinderella or the original Little Mermaid, people do not know what you're talking about. And so when you talk about like the stepsisters, spoilers, cutting off their toes and their heels, and like spitting their foot into this shoe, and then like their foot bleeding on the way to the castle, and like the birds pecking their eyeballs out.
So Cinderella stuck on them, by the way. Such a great heroine, right?
Yeah.
It is.
And people
or
are
Sleeping
like,
Beauty.
Not my Cinderella. Yeah, and Sleeping Beauty wakes up after having 2 children, so she's been raped every night, we assume. So fairy tales are interesting because they are so gruesome, and they are supposed to have those sort of morals and warnings about like, don't trust people, Um,
You know, that one thing that everybody needs to learn. Stop trusting people, y'all. People bad. Yeah. There it is. I know that a lot because I am working on another series in the background called Princess Rescue Squad. That is a modern retelling of all of the fairy tale stories that I'm looking for conspirators on. I'm having so much fun with this. We can talk. I'm sorry, you're talking about the original version of The Little Mermaid. I just finished rereading Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid, and I have feelings. I have so many feelings, and yeah.
There's so Mercedes Lackey has her 100 Kingdoms. I think is what I'm remembering, but the Fairy Godmother was the first one that I found. I was like, oh my God, I love that.
No.
So yes, I love those retellings, and just about like really any modern retelling I adore. So yeah, this is probably like so far off of like Imposter Syndrome.
No. But I don't think it is, because so many of the stories that we want to tell, like when we're talking about our dream stories, the one thing that I find from having talked to authors so much over the years, sorry, somebody needs love and she's trying to like knock everything down, is the stories that we talk about that we love, we're almost always secretly ashamed of. If you notice a lot, like when you said that, you got a little bit rosy in the cheeks, like you may not have been ashamed, but there was a little blushy blush. And I think it all comes together because we need to celebrate our loves. That's even if they're a little kitty that keeps biting you because she needs all the attention. Sorry, I'm going to try to get her to go down. So let's actually start our next topic real quick. Whichever one of you wants to start. How do you deal with burnout and writer's block?
I think although I'm not in the middle of a block, I kind of feel like I'm in the middle of a bit of a slump at the moment. But like I've talked about this in several streams at this point, because I'm not sure if it's that I'm doing multiple projects and can't seem to focus, or if because like I'm trying new things for the first time. But like I don't feel like I'm being as productive. And one of them I have with my romance novella, I kind of have an inkling as to why. And it's because I plotted the whole dang thing. And so.
Oh, did we do it again? I never know.
Oh, now you're frozen.
Yeah.
So you usually are like,
oh, poor StreamYard.
Like, did we freeze? And then you're like,
yeah. So
poor StreamYard.
I mean, I've made the conscious decision that I'm still going to try and meet the goals that I set for myself at the beginning of the month, because they are relatively reasonable, except for the editing, relatively reasonable goals. And like, if I had the editing goals, that would be reasonable by itself. But all three together, not really reasonable. We're still going to try. Because again, like that goal, you got to try and reach for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not doing anything like super, super crazy with it. But I'm still trying every day to write. And so I'm trying to like pop up whatever live stream is on, because there's like always one, or watch a replay, and just like try and get it in at least one sprint. And I mean, I'm continuing to write every day, so it's not as much as I would like, but it is something. And that's all that I can really say, because I've had several years where I just don't write anything, no poems, no stories, no ideas, no nothing, like no dreams, just like nothing. And so, I mean, so far this seems to be working okay. So that's all I can say at the moment.
Well, I'm just saying you've got to live up to your brand. I mean, if you're not dawdling, I mean,
yeah. And that is sort of like the, when I decided like, oh, this is a great name. Everybody seems to like it. Yeah. And then, once I started to, after November, when I started the channel and called myself the Dawdling Writer, and I didn't do anything for like 3 months, I was kind of like, this may have been the wrong idea. So,
well, I do gotta say, your name is why I started AuthorTube, because I saw your name in Kate Kavanaugh's live stream.
Oh, there we go
followed
again.
You. Oh,
there we go again.
I followed you, joined you on live streams, and was like, "This looks fun. I'm gonna do it." So,
I have to say, just to give her all the credit before she gets to jump in here and stops blushing. I was having a really crappy day. I didn't feel like doing anything, and I loaded up YouTube just to distract myself. I was just going to go watch a bunch of really macabre videos and just pretend that I was working. It's research, and it recommended one of your streams that was live at the time, and I was like, the Dawdling Writer. I'm definitely going to do that because I am not going to have to get anything done because she's going to dawdle like I dawdle. And then you made me work.
Yeah. See, that's the whole thing about my sprints, though, is like, if I'm not live, I am dawdling. I am procrastinating. I'm not doing it. So, like, I needed some time to be like live and accountable and have somebody else watch me work, because otherwise I wasn't going to do anything. So that's the reason I started doing the lives, was because I'm like, I'm not writing anything. I want to finish my story, but I'm not writing. Like, who's going to keep me accountable? All right, let's open up YouTube and see if somebody watches you like work. And so people started working with me, and it was great. So
I know. I think back to just a couple months ago, it was just you and I on the streams.
Yeah, because you actually came to my second live stream. So the first one that I did at what became my normal time. So I had tried the evening prior, and I had one person, the Screenwriter's Journey, and she stayed for like an hour because she felt so sorry for me, because I was like, I have somebody watching. I don't know who they are, but I'm like, because I could see the little eyeball and it said 1. And I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's watching. Oh. So she like stayed and commented back and forth with me for like an hour. And she's like, all right, I have to go now. I'm like, okay, thank you for joining me. And then I was just having that one person watch the first time allowed me to like, all right, I can do this. So. And then Abigail came in, and she was Bluebird Studios at that point. And I was like, ooh, hi. And then you kept coming back.
Yeah, because I like you. Because I still do.
You both of y'all, like, I was so excited when you said that you wanted to be on this today, because I am the worst at getting started. And both of you do streams on different days that are right when the husband leaves the house to go to work. So I don't have an excuse not to start my work day at the same time, because like I was having a bad day the other day and I just didn't want to do anything. And Brian was just about to leave and he stopped and he says, aren't you supposed to be on a stream right now? And, like, not in a mean way, but and I started laughing, and so I was very excited. You guys give me my work day. And I'm about to get attacked by a cat again. So how do you, Miss Abigail, deal with burnout and writer's block and all that?
Typically, I take a step back and I just sit down and I'm like, okay, no work. I need to breathe. I need to think and kind of do a retrospective, like what worked, what didn't. And figure out, is this a fear issue? Like, am I having fear of missing out? Am I having second guessing of myself? What is this a fear? Do you just have a Nerf gun?
Squirt gun to drive your cat.
I'm having animal issues. I've donated enough skin and blood today to that cat. And the nice thing is she knows what this is, so I don't even have to use it. I just have to pick it up, and she's just like, okay, I'm going to go play with my sister now. That's why I turned the camera off. I had to go get equipment.
That's so great. Oh man. So
Sorry for the distraction there.
you're good. That's a good kind of distraction, you know? So I try to like what worked, what didn't, what's causing the issue. Is it something with the actual story? Or is it I'm overworking myself, because I do that a lot? Or is it like, again, fear? So I have to like get to the bottom of what's going on. And then I can be like, okay, I'm burnt out. That means I need to rest and not work. And that can be so hard to force myself to do it. But I make myself go play video games, take the day off. I had to do that on Friday. And that's why I missed your stream, Jules. I was like, that's the thing with camp. I'm like, a camp. There's a stream every day, and I want to be on all the streams, but I need to take today off.
Well, the full cast audio production of Sandman by Neil Gaiman is now out for anybody who needs to distract themselves. I was debating whether or not to buy it, and then I listened to the sound clip of Death yelling at Dream, and I went, that's exactly how she sounded in my head. I'm buying this. So they're turning the entire series into an audio drama.
Wow.
Nice.
And Neil does the narration, which is great, having him be the voice of God, and they have actors for each of the characters. So if you need something to distract, that's what I'm using to refill this weekend. I am. If you can't tell my love for people like Neil Gaiman and Sandman and Death.
Did you, this is sort of like a random, did you ever read Pierce Anthony's On a Pale Horse?
Piers Anthony was like, when I was just getting into fantasy, I fell in love with all of Piers Anthony's craziness. And yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with Piers Anthony, Abigail, but he has the Xanth series, and so he drops so many dad puns. Like his books are littered with puns.
The boot trees.
So one of my favorites one is, I think, the fourth one, which is Ogre. And so they're searching for a plant to make the ogre smarter. And it's like EYE and then QUE. So it's the IQ plant. And it took me half the book to realize that it was like IQ plant. And so I felt like so.
She fell off the face of the planet with that one. No, I know what she said. She fell into Xanth. No.
Well,
I feel like
stopped at a cute picture. Like, that's cute.
I feel like Piers Anthony, the best way to explain Piers Anthony is what would happen if Terry Pratchett had no reservations. Like, he just writes like, if you've ever read any of the Discworld books by Terry Pratchett, and if you haven't, do not deprive yourself of the greatness that is Terry Pratchett. But Piers Anthony is just sheer insanity on paper. Like, I almost feel like he wrote the sequels to Alice in Wonderland in a way, because his stories are that kind of just bizarre strangeness. Speaking of Alice in Wonderland, trade places. It's like it's time for another game of streaming musical chairs. But
if Thor came to her house, I'm gonna be mad.
Oh, I know, Chris.
I called you first. I had dibs.
We love you, but you're God. I mean, you can get around.
Wait, okay, she can have Thor if I can have Loki.
Oh my goodness. I'm not going to waste the time on this thing, but for anybody who wants to hear a story about why friends are the greatest things ever, on my podcast, there's an episode called How I Got to Meet Ethan Peck, who, don't know, plays Spock on the new Star Trek shows. Spock is my favorite character ever. My friends arranged for him to show up at a party we were throwing at a convention because I hurt my back and couldn't make it to any of his panels. It is an amazing story. He's an amazing person, and there's nothing like getting to ask an actor to his face what he thinks about slash fiction being written about their characters, because I was a little inebriated excited at the time.
Man, I mean, now I want to know the answer because
he gave us pointers on what to do in the future.
Bless him.
Yes, he just rolled with it. He was just like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing." Well, do you think maybe I could? And he just rolled with it, and he was a great guy. He was much nicer than I've met a lot of especially Star Trek actors, but people I do a lot. I go to a lot of conventions when it's not death and plague outside. I'm actually supposed to be at one this weekend, which is why I really wanted to do a stream today, because about now I would normally be doing one of my big panels at the convention, and it's not happening. And yeah, so deep breaths. I think we lost Jules.
She said her Wi-Fi died.
I know how that is.
Yeah, that's what I was scared of with Thor.
So the reason I wanted you two to go first is, one, I wanted to hear what you had to say, just to get out of my own head, because like I said, recorded about this earlier today, so I know what my answer is. But also just out of curiosity, because I have a morbid fear that for a lot of people, writer's block and burnout is actually a cover for depression, and they don't realize it. There have been numerous authors that I've talked to over the years that talk about how they have writer's block and how they are burnt out. And when you actually start digging into it, they're suffering from depression and not either wanting to recognize the signs or not knowing what the signs are. And I want to put that out there first, because as somebody who has had to take an unscheduled mental health vacation, they're not fun. And if anybody listening to this thinks that they may be suffering from depression, find somebody to talk to, because it's no joke. It's not just being bummed for a couple days. And if you're having trouble writing, just make sure that's not what it is before you go on to any other tips, tricks, or helpful advice, because a lot of people do, because I had a weird sleep schedule, so I didn't really realize that my sleep disturbances were a problem. And I've always had mood swings and stuff, so I didn't realize that my inability to really feel anything was any different from that. Like, I'm just a sarcastic person. What do you expect? I wrote off most of the symptoms, and I just, want to speak from experience there. But the one thing I've learned in my own writing, when it's not for mental health reasons, when I have especially writer's block, it's because I'm wanting to tell the story so bad, I'm crushing all the life out of it. Mm. And my desire to tell the story is actually keeping me from telling the story.
Wow.
And I know for at least a couple friends of mine who I've talked to about this, because I'm one of those fortunate people who have collected writers over the years. We've noticed this in our own writing, is that you get so, either because of a goal that you have, that I have to get this done by this particular point of time, or because you yourself are just so excited about the story that you're doing that you're choking the life out of it. And creativity is something that comes from a spacious mind. It's something that you really need to open yourself up. And I feel like I'm doing an infomercial sometimes on the show. I'm working on a podcast that's going to be about mindfulness for authors, because I think it's so important for us to learn how to have that open spaciousness so the story can flow. Because I know from my experience and a lot of people that I know, that's where it is. The other one I'm going to be talking about with Jules on Thursday. She and I are going to be doing, she and I are going to be doing a stream about the Save the Cat genres, because the other thing that gets me and why I think the Save the Cat genres are so helpful is I think I'm writing this kind of a story, and it's actually a different kind of a story. Like the plot points are very similar to each other, but I'm in the wrong headspace, and I'm keeping myself in the wrong headspace because I thought, oh, I'm writing that kind of a story, so why isn't it going that way? And I'm just a little bit off in my head, and it's causing me to basically be looking over here while everything's playing in the background and going, where are you? Where's the story when it's all like right here?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm very excited to be doing that.
it's like you hold on to the story a little too tightly. You gotta let it go just a little bit.
But if it comes back, you can hopefully rejoin. I don't know how much longer we're going to be going, but I'm a talker, so I already warned everybody. If you've never been to one of my streams before, I talk, y'all. Oh my goodness. So there's not.
Yeah, I know. I'm the one with the thunderstorm, but you're the one who lost the Wi-Fi.
Well, see, I thought we were going to have some problems because I don't know what the cats have destroyed. If you saw, I feel like I have to explain myself half the time because I don't want people thinking I'm reacting to the other people that are on the stream. But my cats are destroying something in the kitchen. I'm going to have a wonderful discovery after all this. So every time you see me go, it's because there have been loud crashing noises and all manner of chaos in there.
Minerva's like, you're not touching me. I'm going to wreck something.
Actually, she's currently, I suppose you can't hear her on the stream. She's currently in the bathroom singing. She gets in the bathtub and starts meowing at the top of her lungs because she's realized it makes her louder. So when she really wants to throw a tantrum, she runs into the bathroom, hops into the bathtub.
Yay!
So if anybody does hear a weird siren in the background, that's my cat. She's currently in the bathroom singing the blues because I am not devoting 100% of my attention to her right now. And it's good to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wi-Fi.
I have no idea. There's not a cloud in the sky. There were some thunders earlier in the day, but nothing, like absolutely nothing. So I don't know. Maybe it's just one of the power blips that we get because of like overuse of aircon in the area.
So I don't know. Might be. I live in fear of. We have a lot of our power around here is stored in dams. So they pump up the water at night and they release it during the day to supplement. And they're not good at building dams around here. So if ever I'm doing a stream and the power randomly goes out, probably one of the dams broke again and the power generation went down for the area. Because it happens like once every year or two because they got insurance. They don't care. Like the county actually built special spillways to just collect the flood water when it happens. Like they just gave up and like there's a special channel now dug through the county because they're going to do it again. So, yay.
Why would you not just like properly fix the dam?
Okay, I don't know if you heard me earlier, honey. I'm from Missouri.
I know, but like still.
We don't do anything properly. And for anybody, in case somebody tries to correct me in that chat over there, I grew up poor and on the southern side of the state. It is Missouri down here. If you said Missouri, we knew you were from either out of state, St. Louis, or rich. It's one of the tells around here. It's also how we knew because a lot of the locals when I was growing up also called it Arkansas instead of Arkansas because we got a rivalry. But what can I say? Our sports team is the Mules. So, yeah, we don't do it right. That may be the greatest joke in the history of jokes. We don't do that. So, burnout, I think, is another thing. A whole thing in and of itself. Because before we move on, does anybody have anything else to say about creativity and keeping your well full? Because on one last note to give you a chance to think about that. Music for me, I listen to music all the time. I have my music fandoms that I'm a big part of, and nothing makes me happier than watching all the crazy videos and because I listen to a lot of spooky music, a lot of cosplay goes on in the scenes that I'm in, and that warms my heart and fills me up. TV shows, books, the usual stuff. But the one thing that I found for me that helps most is finding a mindless game that takes your mind off of everything. Like, I love city builders because I will start playing a city builder and then it's bedtime. Wait, what? Like, time just vanishes. Anything that you can do that evaporates time for you will help refill that well. At least I found in my life. So
I mean, I just put in one of my last videos about how I was reading stuff from the library, but I was just or getting free books, and I was just taking whatever I could get. And I realized that basically it was draining me, not refilling me. So I was like, yeah, I have to start, like, I got Kindle Unlimited because it's like, I need to start putting some money into this instead of trying to, cheap out, and because it's not working. It's not enjoyable. What's the point then?
Just a weird, again, personal. Welcome to the Charlie Shopping Network. All of my books are going off of Kindle Unlimited next month. If you put them on your list, any that you want to read, even when I take them, when they come off, they'll still be on your list, and you'll be able to read them. The Kindle books are going to be available, but not free. If that makes any sense.
Not for Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, not for Kindle Unlimited. So I just feel like I need to keep saying that so that people know. And Miss Jules.
I like to read fun books, and I find that a lot of times when I start reading too many craft books, or what I term as like academic books, so books on education, books on teaching, books on like specifically writing or analyzing, nonfiction stuff. Although, like, to be fair, some nonfiction books are really fun. Like, I think I got my dad a book that I started reading, which was like the history of the world in alcohol, and so like. Anyway, so there's like that kind of fun book, but for the most part, reading fiction, reading like from my favorite authors, even rereading a book sometimes will help. So for me, the fun reading is what oftentimes, and it may take me like 8 or 10 books before I feel like I'm finally like back into a decent headspace, and sometimes that's just has to happen. So
I'm rereading the 5th season right now because I did an interview with Cache Warren that comes out on my channel on Wednesday, and she said something about that book that made me feel like an idiot and completely recontextualized the entire thing for me. And I'm like, I have to read it again.
And
I didn't mention it. Poetry. Poetry helps me so much. And for those who don't know, this was Rumi's father. See if I can line it up so you can see.
Okay.
This was Rumi's father. So if you're a fan of Rumi's poems and you're curious where Rumi got his poetic voice from, this is actually his father. And it's translated by Coleman Barks, who did most of the Rumi poems that you read. This is one of my favorite books of poetry, and I keep it beside me at all times. And like I said, your fandoms. I'm 43 years old, y'all. I have my toys. They keep me sane. They're very helpful. I have one of those right now. I am all my Marvel stuff is currently. Let's just say the cat's got fleas. They laid on all of them. All of my Marvel stuff has fleas and is quarantined in a room right now with Flea Beyond on it. But find things that you love, little stupid things. This is for all of us writers, especially with our consciousness that we have about things. I love My Little Papa. My Little Papa shows up everywhere because he cracks me up. I love the music that this band does. I love the music videos that they do. I'm a big part of their fandom. Whatever it is that makes you happy, find it. Because the biggest cause of both burnout and writer's block is when we let ourselves get run down.
Take ourselves too seriously.
Yes. Because I'll tell you something, life is a joke.
This one is a companion to this one. And it's a book of poetry. And I picked both of these up. There's a third one as well at this point, but it's by Amanda Lovelace. But I picked it up because one of these poems is just repeated, "You have to eat," over and over and over and over again. And so it is, it is a lot of, here's another one. It's the script for when he tells you to smile. Drop dead.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I picked both of them because of like, this book is just like great because they're really simple, but they're just like, yeah, that resonates. Like, there's a lot of stuff that resonates in them. So poetry, like when I learned it in high school, and when they teach it in the academic realm, poetry sucks because it's all about the perfect metaphor, the beat. You have to have an iambic pentameter, which I hate because I have no rhythm. I am tone deaf. I cannot do iambic pentameter. So the Shakespearean sonnet experience just like whoop right over my head because I don't get it. Like the rhythm, I can't hear it. And so like half of the importance of poetry for the rhythm and whatnot just flies out the window for people like me. And so like I don't need all the like highfalutin language. I just need it to resonate. So things like that are perfect.
Yes.
So.
And I really groove on song lyrics and like memorizing them. And I could not carry a tune in a bucket if I had to. But my husband and I, we do sing-along nights where we just put music on and we just, sometimes it's musical nights. And Lord, if I haven't sung the entire score of Hamilton too many times in my life, like I know it's probably not up there with the people that do it on Broadway, but it's got to be close because we'll be, what do you want to put on? You want to do Hamilton again? Okay. And I'm talking about all the way back to the soundtrack.
Well, whenever I go karaokeing with a couple of friends of mine, we always end on Bohemian Rhapsody because it's like a song. So we get to eke out a few more minutes of the karaoke booth because they don't cut you off like at the time. They allow you to finish your song.
That's cool.
So Bohemian Rhapsody is always the song we end on.
Yeah, don't be afraid to sing out. Just got a story on that, but I don't want this all to be about my weird stories and my weird life. The reason I started laughing, I'm sorry, I don't know if anybody out there has seen the Canadian series Letterkenny, but I'm a big fan. My like everybody I know around here, we're huge fans, and we're as far from Canada culturally as you can get. It's basically about friends that takes place in Letterkenny, and it's silly, it's stupid, it's fun. It is so not what you think it's going to be. Like it bills itself as being about like three rednecks hanging out and drinking beer, but like one of them's in a female studies class and is always trying to correct them on what should and shouldn't be said because they learn from their professor what's right, and it's hilarious. It's one of the funniest things. And they noticed that they kept saying to be fair. So to stop them from doing that, every time somebody says to be fair, everybody sings in 4-part harmony, to be fair.
I totally thought you were saying like be prepared from
That's another good one too.
That's a good one too.
Because I do that all the time. Anyone says anything about being prepared, I'm like, be prepared.
So yeah,
that is still one of my favorite Disney songs.
So we adopted that in our own little social circle around here. So anytime anybody says, to be fair, everybody, just like if you go to the bar at our restaurant, if anybody says that, you'll hear the entire bar. Like it's just become a thing around here that we just do. Everybody just starts singing, to be fair. And I didn't realize I did it until I did it. I was so.
Well, what was it in was it this morning's stream with Hannah that we were talking about one of the Englishman's going into an Irish pub and saying top of the morning to you.
We're like,
And
does he
everybody's
wanna
like,
be
he's a friend of mine. So just imagine that kind of stuff.
not only was he an Englishman, but he was an Englishman claiming to be an Irishman.
Gotcha.
Which is even worse to the Irish, I believe.
Yes.
That is amazing. I hated them at the time. I started writing young, and in our school, I don't know. I feel like I don't understand how school works anymore. But when we did 5th grade graduation, when you're going from into middle school, and they had me write and recite the poem for the graduation, and that was one of my first public speaking anythings. But yes, poetry should be read out loud. Yes, all of that out loud. And the idea of doing it at pep rallies. See, I don't know what that feels like, because I'm a 90s kid, and my freshman year of high school was the year that Smells Like Teen Spirit came out. So we decided that the seniors talked the principal into letting their band perform during the first pep rally of the year. And the cheerleaders kind of came out in black outfits with the red anarchies on them, and we kind of reenacted that video. And because all the kids knew what was going on because of the MTVs, and we weren't allowed to have pep rallies for the 4 years I was in high school because we started a riot. Because they just didn't understand. The kids are okay. We were just dancing. So I don't know what pep rallies are really like. Somebody's going to have to fill me in. But I love the idea of poetry, Adam. I can just say doing a mosh pit at a pep rally does not make the faculty happy at all in any way, shape, or form. I know that from experience. So burnout. Burnout, for me, is the bane of our industry. And I think we see it. I think, to me, that's what's wrong with Gurr right now. I think that's why we haven't gotten Winds of Winter yet. I think he, too much, too fast, in all of the publicity and stuff, he burned himself out. And it's been, you can hear it in the things that he's talking about. And I think that's why we're never going to get another Patrick Rothfuss book. Maybe.
We'll see.
Uh-oh.
When is the 10-year mark from the second one?
Oh, she froze for a minute. I was like,
I froze?
Yeah, you did. I was like, Thor?
Thor! We're all waiting for you, Chris. Where are you? Well, there's enough Chris's to go around.
True, there are quite a few Chris's in Hollywood.
Chris's in Hollywood. That's a bad thing. We that's for a late night stream. One of these days when I start doing that drinks with Charlie that I was asked to do, that's a story time for then, but not for now. As I was saying, burnout is so self-induced, especially nowadays, because unless you're traditionally published, and I have bones against traditional publishing. I've talked about that on a stream in the past. I don't want to go through all that again. I got bones. If you want to be traditionally published, God bless you. I have nothing against you. Not for me.
Same here.
But unless you're traditionally published or you're working with an agent, you don't have any deadlines. You can make deadlines. They're important. Yes, getting stuff out on schedule, that's important and all that.
They're self-imposed.
They're self-imposed. There's nobody going to crack a whip at you or shoot a gun at you, or they will yell at you. I'm not going to say people won't yell at you. People will yell at you. Because I wrote a short story that came out like 10 years ago that people are still asking where the sequel to that is. And I'm just like, you even remember that? But yeah, they're self-imposed. And so working so hard to hold to them it really doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. Like, if it's going to stop you from getting work done, there's no point in holding yourself to it. It's self-defeating. And I see a lot of writers, especially during like the Camp Nanos and the NaNoWriMos, beating themselves up because, well, I set a goal and I'm not going to make it. Okay.
Yeah.
What
There's
the
no real prize. There's no punishment.
The nano police aren't going to come get you. Like, I get being bummed. There's been a lot of nanos that I've taken part in and went, I got 5 words. Yay! At the end. You know, I know that that's a bummer, but we beat ourselves up so hard over those just silly little things that we have no reason to beat ourselves up over. You know, yes, we set goals for ourselves. I was stupid this month and decided I'm going to do Camp Nano, and I'm going to try to write a 25K in my novel while doing the World Building Summer Camp and write 33 articles at the same time. Well, I've written 38K in my Nano project, and I've gotten, I think, 16 of the 20 art prompts done that are currently out. How? Because there are fairies in my house that are just going into my fingers and saying, if you don't type right now, I'm going to break them off. It has nothing to do with me, you know? And I'm a little bit, and this, I'm projecting here like crazy, and I'm sorry. I'll get my bill bong down in a minute. And okay, calm it down. Okay, so here's the deal. You write as fast as you write. I know it's exciting when we see people reading books telling them that they can get 5,000 words in an hour. And I'm not telling you not to read the book. I read the book. It's a good book. I tried it. I can write 1,000 words an hour. That's it. My brain doesn't work faster than that, no matter what I try. If I actually do the dictation stuff that he talks about in that book, I can write about 500 words an hour, because telling a story out loud is different from typing it down. Everybody's different. And I think the burnout that everybody's feeling right now, because it seems like every time I turn on a video or a stream, whoever's on the panel, whoever's hosting is, I'm just so burnt out this year. I'm just feeling it. And I'm like, yeah, we're all feeling it. We're trying to get these stories done. We're trying to meet our goals that we've created for ourselves. The world is burning down for X, Y, Z, and a couple other reasons. Hopefully we don't get to Omega, but we might get to Omega. People are dying of the bubonic plague, y'all. Yeah. But, you know, the world's on fire. We're all stressed out. There's no reason to beat ourselves up over it. You know? If camp, especially camp and Nano, to me, are about having fun. You know, I love them because writing is so tedious sometimes. And it's so lonely because you sit in your little room by yourself with your imaginary friends and sometimes your stuffed imaginary friends. And you just want everything to be better and done. And then when it's done, the next idea comes and you start it all over again. And luckily we have these streams and whatnot where we can not be alone during it now, which is a godsend. But
and I think some of that started, this was the first year that I really like went whole hog and tried Nano in this past November. And about half the videos I watched from the author tubers were about, you know, I think I'm going to quit trying to reach the goal because I'm too wrapped up in it. And the fact that a lot of people had transitioned to being writers full time meant that Nano no longer had like this special meaning to them because they were already writing every day all the time. And so now that I'm experiencing camp again, I can definitely sort of like, yeah, that is kind of different. And that sort of loneliness is eased by the writing streams. So I don't necessarily need the like Nano framework anymore.
And they shot themselves in the foot by making the site unuseful. Not saying, but
I think to add on to your comment about everybody writes at different paces. there's also, I want to just say that there's seasons where you write faster and there's seasons where you write slower.
Yes.
So I'm having trouble right now where I made a goal for myself of 60K in a month. That would have been easy for me once upon a time. Piece of cake. Even last year, it would have been no problem. But right now, I think with the way the world is, starting AuthorTube, it's a different beast. And I'm writing slower. And I'm like, oh, that's okay.
Yeah, and I think we need to change what we think of when we think of ourselves as writers. I've really been on this kick lately. Like the last episode I did of the podcast, which I think people were afraid to listen to because I get to see the plays in real time, and usually it hits in a certain number right away, that first day. People took their time because, I've been very open. I don't think publishing's my dream anymore, and especially with everything going on right now, building community, doing like what I'm doing here on AuthorTube, but the idea of making that game, that's my dream now. Like 10 years ago, when I first thought maybe one day I would have a community that would support what I'm doing and I could just do all the crazy things that are in my head, that was so far-fetched. But now with Patreon and Coffee and everything else that's out there, that's not a crazy idea anymore. And yes, for some of us, the end goal is always going to be to have one of these. And, if I was better at branding and marketing, I would have one of my books over here that I could be flashing at the screen, but I don't think I actually have one of my books over here. But I think we need to start asking ourselves, what does it mean to be a writer now? Because like the book that I'm working on right now, I love podcasting so much that I'm looking at doing it as a podcast novel. And so I've done up my estimates for how I want each episode to be about 30 to 45 minutes, because that seems to be about average for a podcast novel. And so I'm trying to write within those word constraints. I'm writing episodes of a podcast as my book. That's an unthinkable thought 5-10 years ago, and there's so much opportunity for us now that getting locked into this narrow focus of I'm going to make Amazon happy because yes, Jeff Bezos, I'm not saying anything bad about you. Don't take my books out of the search again. Though I know you didn't do it the last time. It was a glitch. I understand. But, there's so many options for us that I think we need to start just asking ourselves, what is it that I really want? Because if we're working really hard, because I was working so hard to get books out, if I didn't have another one of these to take to the convention every year, I was a failure. Or 2 of these or 3 of these, because I got to the point where I needed to have 4 of these with me every time I went to that convention again. So that's 4 a year. Why? That's not my goal. My goal is not to go look at this great stack. I was writing really crappy books that no one will ever see because none ever got past me to even go to my beta readers, just because I felt this pressure to have books out all the time. I think we really need to be asking ourselves hard, what is it we really want so we don't burn ourselves out? Because for me, whether, I want people to read my books and I want people to love them, but if I make a living because there are kids playing the tabletop RPG that is going to go alongside this, that's still a win for me. They're for goodness sakes, they like my stuff so much, they're telling their own stories with their friends in that world. That's even more of a win for me. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what I want to start hearing from people is, because, you may just want to have your Kindle books and your paperbacks and stuff, and that's great. But there's so many things that we can do now. I can't wait to see what happens. Hi.
I've been planning on doing sort of I call it a video book. on YouTube. So similar, sounds kind of like what you're talking about with the podcast, but I'm planning on also using like sound effects and some pictures, some of which I may get like some artist friends to do. And kind of talked with another artist about doing an animation, but that's a whole nother level.
Oh, that's one of my dreams, is to have an anime or some animated something.
Yeah, so I have a friend that wants to go to school for that. So
helping somebody build their profile and you get an animation. Hey, win-win. Yeah, it always, I saw that like Kate Kavanaugh and several others have gotten like their first fan fiction or first like fan art. And so they like posted up some of the fan art and they're like, look. And I was like, yeah, eventually that'd be cool too. I want somebody to like and imagine my characters.
I have gotten a fan art from a friend that I just told her about my cast, and she like went and took it and like drew them out. I was just like, this is so amazing.
When my third book came out, somebody did a filk song, a parody song of a Nirvana song, but about my characters from that book, and sent me an MP3 of it. And that's like, every time I'm like, nobody likes me, I just play that song. I'm like, somebody did. Because yeah, that's an amazing feeling. It's so, I don't know. There's so many opportunities for us now. Yeah. Sorry, I made myself emotional.
Okay. I think it's amazing. Like, we're living in a world where there's options for artists.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, and I think that there's the most mainstream people don't understand that it's actually realistic. Because, I mean, how many times I still get, like, told, like, well, it's not realistic. That's a far-fetched dream. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Do a little research. Like,
yeah.
It's not. It's not.
And the fact that, you know, people were initially so dismissive of ebooks. Oh, nobody's going to read ebooks, you know, and it's just the publishing industry has been turned on its head simply because of ebooks and the publishing, the self-publishing aspect of things. And Hugh Howey and Wool, where he essentially got to keep his ebook rights, which was one of the first contracts with the publishing house to allow that. You know, and the fact that he made so much money off of it that he could do that before the publishing houses came to him, sort of like, hey, I guess, yeah, we should probably offer you a contract. Like, you know, that thing has become much more common. And so it's really hopeful.
I can't remember who else was a part of it, but Peter David, DiCandido, and a bunch of other writers just decided to start a internal publishing house for themselves and for up and comers, because they got tired of submitting their work to their agents and their agents saying, but that's not what people want from you. And you know, Peter's a great guy, and he's been in the industry. Oh Lord. See, I'm 43, and I remember seeing him at conventions when I was 10. So he's been in the industry for at least 30 years, you know, and the fact that people are still telling him, no, that's not what people want from you, even though, you know, his books sell, his comics sell, and what have you, that's, you know, we need to be repeating that in our own heads, because going back to the gatekeepers that we started this whole thing off with, if people are gatekeeping an author who has won awards and who has really sold well, you know, that's what they're going to do, because they only care about what they can make money off of and what they think they can make money off of. And that's why, you know, for me, if you haven't realized that so much of my identity comes from the queer community that I grew up in, nobody published our stuff. We always had to self-pub. And so I've never seen it as shameful or any of the other stereotypes that were in there, because if you were going to write a book with any queer characters in it, you had to publish it yourself somehow or start a publishing house to do it, because nobody wanted our stories. And, you know, I'm so glad that the stigma is going away on that, but there never should have been one in the first place. Because you know what? My book, The Chain, is not for everybody. I know that. I knew that when I wrote it. I didn't expect anybody to read it. Like, it was literally the book I wrote to end my career, you know? And I knew that it was going to have a very small, limited audience when I wrote it. And I'm fine with that, you know? And it sold a lot better than I ever dreamed that it would have. But it's not always about making the bestseller list. You know, if you have a story that you want to tell and only 5 other people on earth need to hear it, as long as they can hear it, that's a successful story. And that's the beautiful thing that we're in right now with all of the genre writing and everything that's going on right now, is whatever you need, it's there. Somebody is writing your story. And if they're not, you write that story. And that audience will find you. Because if you want to read it, somebody else wants to read it too. You know, as weird and wacky as my ideas are, I've learned that over the years that there are other weird, wacky, crazy people like me that want those kinds of stories too. And they don't care about everything being over the top and all of the drama that's in them. That's why they want to read it. You know, that's the story that they crave, because that's the kind of story that we like. And, you know, it'll just be you, man, and stop stressing. Like, I just feel like I just need to put a banner on every one of these that I do that just scrolls at the bottom there. Stop stressing. It will be all right. just stop. Stop stressing. It'll be all right. Though I have to say, I have some banners planned for October already, and my stream numbers are either going to go up or they're going to go down. But I know some. I have plans. I have plans within plans. It's going to be crazy.
It's like, I'm not even thinking past July at this point. I'm
Yeah,
like,
me neither.
Oh no, it's
right
not
now.
like. Don't get me wrong. Hey, that's my laptop. Sorry. Kat just tried to run away with my laptop bag. She ran up, grabbed the handle, and ran. Like, if there was any day that the camera was pointing the wrong way, that would have been my viral cat video and made me YouTube famous. Anyway, sorry about that. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm not planning stuff out into the future. I'm just having weird ideas. Like, I'm in this period in my life where I'm just, after I got out of my unscheduled mental health vacation, I decided, as long as it doesn't hurt me, I'm just going to say yes. So if it sounds like a good idea, I can say yes. Because you know what? Like AuthorTube. I started making AuthorTube videos. If you ever watch my first videos, they're terrible. They're me sitting out on the deck, and you can hear people mowing in the background. Like, and it was just like, I'm turning this camera on, because if I don't turn the camera on, I'm never going to do this. And what's the worst thing that happens? I decide I don't want to do it, and I stop. And so anytime I get a weird idea, I'm just writing them down and putting them on my schedule, my planner. I'm just, you know, I'm getting, and I'm not saying that that's a thing that works for will work for everyone, but it has helped me out so much to, like I was saying in somebody's stream the other day, it's the one thing I learned when I read Bossy Pants, which came out about the time I was getting out of my depression, by Tina Fey. She said that you should live your life like you're on stage doing improv. When somebody says something to you, always respond yes, and keep the story going. And I thought that was, at least at that point in my life, that was advice I needed to hear. So yeah, I don't know what October is going to look like at all. I just know I had some ideas and went, you know, it would be really funny to do a stream with my face done up like that and make myself a little hat and be Papa for one of the Halloween streams, because I think that would be hilarious. I don't know if anybody else will, but I will enjoy the crap out of that. And so that went on my list, because honestly, I'm glad people are enjoying the stuff that I'm doing right now, because I get nice things said to me. I'm just trying to keep myself entertained. I'm just, I'm gonna say it. I spent 5 years in a hole just trying to live every day and not go out like a light. I'm just gonna have fun. So whatever comes through my head, as long as it doesn't hurt me or somebody else, I want to do it. And that's how that's how I have stuff planned for October. I was looking at somebody's Instagram the other day, and I just thought to myself, that would be so funny to do a stream themed on that for October. Wrote it down. Because I follow a lot of horror people on Instagram, and it just, that would be funny to do. Okay. I wish I could take credit and be like, yes, I'm that organized and thoroughly thought out and planned.
I have tried to be way more organized than I naturally am, and it just kind of falls to pieces every time. So, like, my bookshelves look-ish organized, but they're not. They, like, literally came out of the packing box and, like, got shoved onto the shelf. And then I've rearranged a couple of times, like, just move this stack here, check if the book I want is there. If it's not, move it back over, look to the next shelf. So I need to, like, go through them at some point and organize them, but it's just, organized is not my natural state.
Me neither.
So
my Kanban board is a miracle.
That's what I felt like when I made that. And then I realized after using it for like 3 days, I was like, I'm doing this wrong.
I hope this doesn't make anybody dizzy, but my Kanban board, I don't know if you can see it over there. It is beautifully blank. It is set up because I'm definitely going to do it. I have plans to do it. It's going to happen. I've read all about it.
But I've infected you. The Dawdling Writer.
Oh, no.
I infected you, Jules. So.
Oh, I am the world. Like I always tell people, I am a member of the world's least organized religion. I am from the most least organized part of the country. My grandfather was late to his own funeral. It's in the genes. No, they misplaced his body in the funeral home. Like, it was always a joke that he was going to be late for his own funeral, and he was.
You've had the weirdest stories, like accidentally pickling chickens.
I know.
Oh, my life. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, you should write a screenplay. And I was like, no, I did. When I lived in California.
Write your biography.
When I lived in California, I was writing screenplays and sending them in, and they were all based off of stuff that me and my friends had actually done. And I kept getting notes back on them. This is too unrealistic. You're going to have to tone it down if you expect anybody to make this into a movie. And I'm just like, but that happened. Like, all I did was change the names of people so they didn't get arrested. Like, all that happened. And yeah, I have lived lives. Which is why I'm not afraid to tell stories, because, I feel like sometimes it comes off like braggy or whatever sometimes, but I've lived about 5 different lifetimes this go around, and if people can learn from my many, many, many mistakes, then they're worth it. Because if you can do something wrong, I've done it. I've got the t-shirt and the scars to prove it. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, because, I remember being a kid and being so excited about everything. And then life, because that's the one thing. And Mr. P, I'm not coming after you for this, because I know you teach at school, but at least when I was going to school, they don't prepare you for life at all. Mm-mm. And you think you're getting prepared, right? Because you're doing stuff, and you've got your first job, and you've had to file your taxes for the first time, and Maybe like me, you took a home economics class because you thought that might actually help you in the future, and I can make bread and pizza. But
Those are both very important skills.
it was very important. But like, they didn't teach me how to do a checkbook, you know? And that impact into life is hard. That impact into life when you want to be a creative person is a nightmare. Not just because it's hard to figure out how to make money or survive, depending on what you want to do, but because everybody thinks you're nuts for trying it. So you've got your own little demons in your head, which for anybody listening to this who doesn't listen to my podcast, I have a skull up on my shelf there. His name is Bob. For anybody who used to watch the Dresden Files, yes, Bob. And anytime that little voice comes to my head, I just pretend it's coming from that skull and I yell back at it. Because I don't have time for you today, Bob. I just don't have time. Shut up. You know, every time that voice comes in, we have to shut it down, whether it's from somebody coming in going, do you really think you want to be a writer? I don't think I want to be a writer. I am a writer. I think I'd like to make more money as a writer. But that is what it is, you know? And I don't know. I'm just trying to be helpful. Because I'm just trying to be helpful. And not tell too many weird stories.
But the stories are entertaining. So I think there will probably at some point be a pickled chicken in one of my stories now. So that's
my great grandmother, she once killed a bull with a tin can. I've got stories about her. I've got stories. We could do a whole story time with Charlie thing if you want at some point.
Was this the same lady that accidentally pickled the chickens?
Oh, she was something. My great grandmother, who I have the fondest memories, and I am so fortunate that I got to know 5 generations of my family. My great grandmother once cooked my pet rabbit for dinner because she didn't understand the idea of having pet rabbits. She was right out of the Beverly Hillbillies. Like, when I say I grew up country, like, I get excited and my accent comes out just a little bit. I work hard. To not. my natural voice is very different from this, and I can't take myself seriously when I hear it. But yeah, I've got stories. I just want to be helpful, you know. So I hope that this did help somebody out there. I'm always available, and I think people think that I'm joking when I say this. Look, y'all, we own a restaurant. My husband spends all day at the restaurant. I spend all day here writing my books. When I say I'm here if anybody needs me, I'm here. My Instagram and Twitter are down below, and you can DM me at any time if you need to talk. Nobody needs to go through any of these issues alone. I'm not saying I'll be able to be helpful, but sometimes you just need somebody to listen. So I'm not joking. Like, I keep a chat open on the side. I'm texting with 5 people and then sometimes 2 different people's streams at one time just because I just need to talk. But I mean it. If anybody needs anything, any help, reach out to somebody, even if it's not me, because I'm really worried about the mental health of a lot of people on YouTube right now. I really am. I'm not saying that in like a spilling the tea kind of way, but people are going through some stuff right now, and
it is a weird time. And so with that, I think comes a lot of extra weird things. I know one of my best friends is renting out her house. Like, she just rented out because she works for Disney. She had a contract. She was supposed to go to Paris to work for Disney Paris. And instead, she is stuck here until Paris and France are allowing Americans in, then they can clear her visa and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so she rented her house out not knowing that the pandemic was going to hit. And the pandemic hit, and the married couple that rented her house had suddenly were spending a whole lot of time together when they had not been. So they have now decided to split. So there's a whole lot more strange interactions with people that you didn't spend as much time with. So there's more strain on your relationships because you can't go out and do the things you used to do for relief or just get away.
Preach.
So there's a whole lot more. I'm not saying, everybody's relationships is on the rocks or whatever, but like there's a whole lot that you have to deal with that you may have just been kind of like shoving to the side. And now that you can't go out and party all the time and you're stuck at home, or now that you can't go out and shop all the time and you suddenly have to have dinner with your spouse, like things are going to come up that weren't going to come up when you weren't together.
I think a lot of people are having to look at themselves for the first time in their lives right now. I'm really feeling that from a lot of the conversations I've been having with people, that we keep ourselves so busy that we don't have to answer any questions about who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, that's the one superpower that, queer folk like myself tend to have, is we saw that we were different early and had to start asking questions early. And I want that to be a regular part of life. Like, because there's a lot of things that we believe about ourselves that are because we were told them, not because we know that they're true. And a lot of what's going on right now, you can see it in people where they're having to confront a lot of those issues. Like, I know quite a few couples that loved each other on paper, but can't stand spending any time together, which has always confused me. Like, why are you together? And they're not anymore. And I want to say it's a bad thing, but life is life. And there's a lot of people learning. And
Parenting
that's
too.
very uncomfortable.
Parenting too, right now.
Yeah.
People are actually like, who am I as a parent? Did I even want kids? Which is a little late to ask now, but they are.
Yeah. And then the whole education system, like, I'm sure that Mr. P and I could have long conversations about that one, because parents don't have the free babysitting that was their teachers.
No,
so now they're having to face. Yeah, now they're having to be parent and teacher and babysitter. And some people aren't liking it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's why I feel like now is it's such a cliche to say like everything's changing right now. But I don't think there's a way to keep everything from changing right now. We don't have anything to do but look at the way things are and question it. Like, there's only so much new stuff on Netflix or Amazon Prime, or you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
there's only so much new stuff that you can watch before you're just like, I don't want to watch another TV show, And we're looking at ourselves in a mirror as a country right now, and what's amazing me, like I said, because we run a restaurant in town, how many people we never would have thought would have questioned anything have been coming in and asking very, like, can you teach me about this? Because they know my husband and my politics are more inclusive, accepting than theirs were traditionally. It's a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting time to be alive right now. And yeah, it's scary.
It's also interesting to see who is pushing back against science. I'm like, I thought you were for science. Like, what are you doing running around without a face mask?
Not just science. I've learned a lot about
among other things, but
I've learned a lot about friends and family because I've end all of my videos and all of my podcasts and stuff with a Black Lives Matter shout out, because it's not over. We haven't fixed anything yet. And I'm really afraid people are going to go back in their bunkers and be like, we did it, handled it, nailed it, you know? And no, we haven't. We're not done. And the reaction I've gotten from some people has shocked me. You know, people that I thought I knew really, really well, that just all of a sudden weren't okay with that. And just, oh. Or like when She Who Shall Not Be Named came out the closet and was like, well, she's not really saying anything bad. I did a video on my channel, so I don't have to talk about it anymore.
I saw it.
I have feels. I have lots of feels. But yeah, it's amazing. So I think we've kind of hit this pretty good. Let's see what's going on in the chat. I'm trying to watch the chat, but it's being. You think the stream's being weird tonight? My chats have been appearing and disappearing randomly, because I'd be like, oh, that's an interesting point. I'd reach over and it would go away, and then I'd move my mouse away and it'd come back. So if I didn't get to you in chat, it's not because I don't love you or because I didn't like what you had to say. StreamYard's going through things today and needs some love.
Sorry if I'm looking kind of weird. My window faces the street, and so I see birds and dogs, and so
I was so nervous about all that. I'm desperately trying to keep my camera right where the StreamYard chat is, because I don't know. I am self-conscious about everything. I hope the food is good, Sarah. And can I just say, if you all are not keeping up with what Sarah's working on, she hasn't read the Judge D books, so I don't know if it's a good analogy or not, but every time she talks about her books, it makes me think about the Judge D mysteries, and I love those books so much. I am so excited for her work, and I can't wait. You said goodbye. Plan to work on your blog. Yes. Blogs are awesome. Blogs are fun. Like I said, I'm going to be using the new manuscript system that they set up over at World Anvil. I'm probably going to do a video about it. I've been talking to Janet about that. That's why I feel like every now and then she might watch something, and I'm like, Janet, love you. I give you guys money every month for hosting. You could, give some back. Not really. I love the site. I want it to prosper. Don't mind paying. But yeah, what they're doing is kind of what I wish Wattpad had done, because you can collect everything up into a book, but you have publishing controls over each chapter and how it shows up and who can see it. You can set selective audiences for who can see what chapter, and there's some interesting things with what they're doing, and I'm wanting to do a video about that. I just haven't figured out how I want to do that. So if you have any questions, send them to me. So, because
random question for the both of you,
okay,
or perhaps a later video idea. I know that Wattpad occasionally will have people that are like, they either have bots or they go in and they steal like translation work and they repost it on Wattpad and on other things. So I just didn't know if you guys had experience in that or in sort of like anti-theft body or whatnot. But that may be like something for a different video.
I'm an oldie, and I do have an answer for this, but Abigail, do you have anything before I go into?
Nope, no experience with this.
I feel like I monopolized. I'm a talker. Like I said, you gotta tell me to shut up sometimes. I have never had problems with that on Wattpad, but I know that one story that keeps cropping up on me was a story I wrote for a convention that was pirated like crazy. I've had a couple short stories pulled out of collections and pirated like crazy. And I had one novel that is no longer in print, that if it gets pirated and somebody's stupid enough to read it, it's not my fault. I rewrote that thing, so it wouldn't be that bad. Had a really bad editor. Long story. Yeah, I always look at stuff like that as marketing, just because if I can do something to take it down, like if it's offensive and I can see people taking, making money off of my work in a way that I do not approve of, if I can go after it, I will. I have in the past set up, when I was having some bad piracy going on with one of the stories that I had out, I had set up a Google alert that would ding me anytime that text showed up on the web as a way to find it, because there were some people that were inserting scenes that I hadn't written into a story to try to get me in trouble. Let's just say scenes had been rewritten to be rather racist, and that's not who I am. And that was part of drama in a past life. Like I said, we can do a stream about, I'll try those weird stories, but for the most part, I don't care if somebody steals my stuff, because anybody who downloads a pirated book of mine would never have paid me for it in the first place. If you're the kind of and I say that with some caveats. I read a lot of bootleg translations of Chinese books, just because they don't make an official English translation, and when they do, I do try to buy it. But for the most part, I don't care.
Okay, I just didn't know if that was, because I knew that it was quite prevalent among like translated novels, but I didn't know if it was prevalent on like the short story or the blog post market.
Like blog posts my blog posts have shown up all over the web and websites that I have never submitted to. I know that for a fact. And a lot of them show up on Russian sites. Well, I'm assuming Russian sites are .ru sites, so who knows where they're actually hosted. But I've had people contact me with a link back to the article. I found you through this thing that you wrote back in the day, and like, yeah, I never wrote for that website, but I did write that article. And I don't know. This is where I get defeatist about stuff like that. I think piracy is a fact of life now. Like, the stuff that you have to do to keep your work safe makes it really hard for readers to enjoy it. Like, if you turn the features on, the DRM on for your books on Kindle, accessibility readers cannot read your book. That DRM prevents, if anybody's using the text to speech, from working on your books, and it can also interfere sometimes with the making the text larger. So a lot of the things that are out there to try to stop it cause problems. So if you do find a perfect solution, all hail. I would love to hear it, but that's where I'm at on that.
Okay.
So I do want that one short story to stop circulating. Right? And if you know which one I'm talking about, I know you're watching this, because I know who does it. I know. We'll go to your house one of these days. Sorry. Like I said, many laugh stories. But yeah, I would love to actually look into somebody who's having issues with that, who doesn't write in English as a native language. Because I've often wondered, like, my podcast got really big in France for some reason, or everybody that's listening to me is using a VPN that comes out in France for some reason. All I know is my viewer statistics, all of a sudden, like, I'm like 50-50 between France and the United States in my top listeners, and I have no idea why. Like, I don't know if somebody said, I don't read French, I don't speak French, and so I don't know if somebody said or did anything in France that mentioned. I have no idea. Let's see, we already did that. Something sorry, the chat blurped again, and I don't know.
I saw that time. Yeah, I don't know what that was, but I think
My-
I might have to go soon. So
Yeah, I was just about to call it. All right. So I hope that this has been helpful. I had fun. For those of you who are interested, I do writing sprints on Wednesdays with the wonderful Grayson Wild, and you can find information about that on my channel. I'm also, it's this week, isn't it, that I'm starting? Yep. I'm going to be Thursday. On Abigail's channel on Thursday.
Yeah.
So do you shtick? Do you shtick?
You got me? Okay, I'll go next. My name is Abigail. I am a indie author currently working on an adult fantasy series, and I do streams most of the time whenever I feel like it. But right now it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, and occasionally Saturday. But I don't think there's going to be another Saturday this month. So Tuesdays and Thursdays.
And I love her streams. And our wonderful queen of all dawdling. I need to get you a logo made that says Queen of all dawdling. I got to get on that.
I will accept. My name is Jules. I am the Dawdling Writer, and if you need some help stopping procrastination and getting to writing, I do live streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays for some weekend writing streams at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm currently insane and trying to edit a project, draft a project, and outline another.
And Jules and I are going to be talking about the Save the Cat genres on Thursday after Abigail's stream.
Yes.
Thereabouts. And then Abigail and I are going to be talking about stuff. And there's going to be a lot of stuff. So subscribe to everybody. Subscribe, hit the likes buttons. Everybody's linked down below. I am Charlie. I write whatever I want to. That is a cat that is... Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, it's outro time. This is Minerva, and she wants her own channel, apparently, because she only does this when I stream. Just so you all know. She ignores me unless this camera is on, and then she's got to be right here. She wants her own channel. This is Minerva, and she is fabulous. She doesn't have any books out yet, but I think we're going to fix that, right? And I hope you all had fun. You can find all of our links down in the doobly-doo down below, and until next time, Black Lives Matter, Black Trans Lives Matter, and say her name. Bye.